What's going on, everybody? It's your man Dave Miranda, and this is episode 126 of Just Give Me 5. I hope you guys are doing great. Continue to be amazing. We got a really awesome show lined up for you today. But first things first, hit that like button. I need you to hit that subscribe, and I need you to spread the word about Just Give Me 5. All right. Now, if you guys caught episode 125, you saw we had none other than the one and only DJ Just Chris. And let me tell you, Chris is, like I said, is the ultimate plug to the city. I mean, it's really not a spot the guy can't get you inside of. And, the reason being is because he's been around in the scene for so long, worked with a lot of people, made a name for himself. And, he's very highly respected. It was so awesome to have him on the show. Got a chance to hear a little bit about the Mesa scene and obviously the Tempe scene back in the, in the late 90s, early 2000s. Beats and brunch, everything that he was bringing to the table and to the community. It's just an awesome gem, man. Love that dude. And, we were just so happy to have him on the show. So shout out to you, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Thank you again for blessing us on our platform and getting us that location as well. Very much appreciated. And make sure you guys watch episode 125. All right. But today's guest is somebody that the community likes to refer to as the Renaissance Man. We're going to talk about his early days in becoming an MC, as well as his transition into film, including a film that he had at Harkins Theater. We're going to talk about his Starstruck multimedia business, some memorable moments, including the Tucson Hip Hop Festival, and so much more. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you, Jaron Ikner.
What's up, y'all? This is Multimedia extraordinaire Jaron Ikner, and all I'm saying is just give me 5. Being an entertainer in general, it kind of started with me at an early age 5, age 6. I was dancing for all my parents' friends in the living room and doing all that. Okay. I used to write poetry, write stories with all my friends in there. And I've always had a passion for music, but it wasn't something that I really pursued until after my father passed away at age 8. At that point, I started to make songs that kind of helped me figure out and process those emotions, like dark poetry, things like that. And from there, when I actually got into high school, hanging out with quote unquote all the black kids or whatever you want to say, there's only 15 of us. Every lunch break, they would have rap battles. And they would get it in a circle, start the cipher, you know how ciphers work. And basically, after a while, they would start to bring me into these ciphers, being like, hey, dissing me, taking some shots at me, et cetera and so forth. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not a punk. Right. So during third or fourth hour, I'm writing bars now. And then when they started battling in the circles, I was stepping up in the cipher, saying, had a couple of snapbacks. And from there, they were pretty impressed. They're like, oh man, you can actually spit. And I'm like, yeah, I actually also make beats too, because I used to mess around with acid loops and stuff like that back in the day, and actually started making beats from there. Yeah. And that really kind of started the whole motion. All the kids in high school were called PS193. We had a record label called Beatdown Records, and I was the main producer for that record label, making all the beats for all the homies.
Wow. Tucson, correct?
Tucson, Arizona, yeah. Mountain View High School. Basically from there, I actually even had the senior class anthem, where I actually took Jay-Z's The World Is Mine and flipped it into The World Is Mine for the high school students, class 2002. And so it was just really kind of built into me to be this rapper, entertainer guy. Yeah. And by the time I graduated from high school, I knew that I definitely wanted to be a musician. Part of losing my father too was the aspect of the fact that I didn't really have a lot of father figures in my life or people to look up to. But when I turn on MTV and I see Puff Daddy sitting there dancing, doing his thing, and Jermaine Dupri, Jay-Z, all these black music moguls, I realized I wanted to be that. I wanted to be like Puff Daddy. I wanted to be like Jay-Z. I wanted to be like all these people. They ended up becoming my father figures. So by the time I got out of high school, I was basically thinking, oh man, I just want to be the biggest rapper in the world. Unfortunately, I was broke. So I just did the best I can. I'm a pretty scrappy and resourceful person. So we just started doing shows in Tucson over at Vaudeville Cabaret. And that kind of just started everything from there. just in terms of even meeting you and just starting doing events and booking all the artists in Phoenix that we possibly could in Arizona, and actually nationwide. We ended up booking acts from New York, Atlanta, Florida over the course of 11 years before I ended up moving up here. So the Tucson hip hop scene, while there were a lot of veterans like Big Reddox and James Cypherface and Driving Scientists that existed before me, there wasn't really like a hip hop community. And anybody who knows me, I'm all about community. I'm all about the people. And so Vaudeville Cabaret was one of the first venues that allowed us to have hip hop shows and hip hop events. And we really leaned into that. We brought all the acts that we could possibly bring out and have them perform, just to show that there's a hip hop culture out there. Exactly. And that's what was really important. Over time, we actually moved vaudeville to 5 different venues in Tucson, and then we actually did a couple events up here in Phoenix as well. So there was a bit of a popularity around it after we started doing it at vaudeville at first. So I would say what really actually sparked a lot of the Tucson hip hop culture is the mic fight scene. I'm not sure if you're familiar with mic fights, but it was actually like a nationwide renowned battle rap series. And we would see battle rappers come from all across the country to compete for like this $500 that you would win as a prize, but also the respect and the redemption of being this battle rapper. And me personally, I'm not that much of a battle rapper, even though my career kind of started that way. But being able to participate in that and being able to interact with all these rappers who just really care about the passion and the culture, I often get criticized for my affinity towards Tucson because that's where I'm from, and so I'm all about Tucson, Arizona. But I can say wholeheartedly that Tucson has more talent per capita than most hip hop scenes across the nation. The amount of talent in that little 4 miles that is the hip hop like downtown district has some of the best rappers in this country, period.
That's a factual statement.
Right, from Tommy Will, Cash Lansky, Marley B, Driving Scientists. These are some of the best rappers in Arizona, period.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that they come from this little small area and they're all community and they all work together, go on tour together, help each other, it's like, man, it's such a beautiful city. And
and it's like eliminate the ego. That's Arizona.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of those it's Arizona.
Absolutely.
So you started doing that. You started touring, and how did that come about? Did you book that on your own as well during the vaudeville situation?
So with that, like one of the best relationships that I had through that era was my relationship with Universatile. There was a point in time where we were actually going to turn our series called Chronicles into a Tucson Blunt Club, but that didn't work out, obviously. But what ended up happening was that we ended up getting a lot of solid connections through UM. And that allowed us to spread our network pretty far and wide. I didn't tour too much during the vaudeville era. It wasn't until I actually moved up here that I started touring a lot. But just being able to create this network of artists that over the years has kind of fallen apart. We've gotten older, we're having kids, we're getting married now. But during my mid-20s, I could call somebody in LA and have a place to stay. I could call somebody in New Mexico and have a place to stay. And I'm saying I had people in New York, I had people in Florida. I managed to create this network that honestly I kind of wish I would have continued to foster and cultivate. But that's what made it a lot easier to just get around. If you wanted to go do a show in LA, it might be an open mic night. It might be some homie's show that kind of owed me a show, quote unquote, because I brought them down. Right. But we would be able to move the way that we needed to move. Yeah, it's like for a favor, And if you were able to forego the money a little bit and take a little bit less cash, then you could get yourself in front of more events.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
If you're willing to rock a show for free or next to it, or for gas money, you could definitely.
It's gonna be a sacrifice, but there's going to be a payoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're now fast forward time a little bit, right? You got Justice and Respect the Underground with the Arizona Hip Hop Festival, right? Sure. So now that's accumulating a lot of just well awareness period throughout the culture of Arizona hip hop, right? So that's going on. Then the Tucson Hip Hop Festival starts as well. You had a big part in that. Absolutely. Can you explain that?
Yeah, shout out to Pike Romero and Jasmine. So they're the ones who actually founded the Tucson Hip Hop Festival, and they actually had a good relationship with the Africana Studies of the U of A. And they were able to team up and put together this beautiful festival that was done at 191 Tool, downtown Tucson. And because of my tenure in Tucson and the fact that I have done 400 shows in Tucson over the course of 10 years, I know a lot of artists. And so they reached out to me, and I literally sat down with Jasmine and handpicked 150 artists for the Tucson Hip Hop Festival in 2017, and then did it again the year after that. And that was a really, I mean, just to be able to handpick these artists, listen to every single artist's music and try to get to know them and try to put them in the right pieces to make sure they go on the right stages, to have the right sound in the right order. It's a little bit harder than you think it was, but it paid off because both of those festivals are some of the finest moments in Tucson hip hop history. And I'm not saying that I was because of my lineup. It was mostly because of Pike and Jasmine and what they were able to put together. I was just blessed to be a part of that. So, you know, shout out to Pike and Jasmine if you guys are watching that. I really appreciate you guys. So. Kind of going back to what I was saying in the previous question about my childhood, I call myself a multimedia artist because that sounds fancy and it gets me more gigs. But to be honest, what that really is just a storyteller. I love stories. And you might see my posts on Facebook talking about it or social media. I'm all about the story. I believe that the story and the concept of the story is the most powerful thing in the human existence. It drives people, it motivates us, it makes us cry, it makes us laugh, it makes us sing, it makes us dance. Absolutely. It makes you kill. It's one of the most important things that we have as humans and we hold really dear. I figured this out at a really early age. And what I realized is and why I call myself a multimedia artist is because there are so many different ways that you can tell a story. You can rap it, you can write it down, you can tell it as a movie, you can tell it as a book, however you want to tell that story. But what I've come to realize when it comes to movies and film, at this point in time and where we're at technologically speaking, it's the ultimate medium of telling a story. The only exception to that rule is video games, but I don't know how to code. I'm not making any video games anytime soon. I might, don't count me out on that. But so, you know, being able to learn the art of creating film was something that was always like kind of written in my blood. And even as a kid, my father, he had a VHS camera and he would constantly make home movies of us dancing or making little action movies and all that. As a kid, I had my own camera, just making content all the time. And even in high school, in junior high school, I was in the morning announcements for every single year from 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, and 11th, 12th. So for 6 years, I was on the morning announcements and got really familiar with working with cameras and was like the concept of being in front of a camera, things like that really just kind of inspired me to be like, yeah, this is gonna be a major part of my life. So I got my degree over here at SCC. I got a certificate in screenwriting and also a degree in film production. I actually went there and took all the classes, took every single class there.
They say that's the best school, like, for it.
Yeah, actually, an article just came out saying that's a top 20 school in the country. But shout out to SCC because their staff and their programming is amazing there. Bill True, my screenwriting mentor, he taught me so much about how to really capture a story and how to deliver that in the form of a film. And it really does enhance my ability to create and write stories. So
you end up getting a chance to work with iRock.
Yes.
You know, on a film called The System. Explain your role in that.
So, you know, God bless Iron because he is one of the most important people in entertainment history when it comes to Arizona, not just in music, even though his music career is extremely storied. We're talking about film, we're just talking about connecting people. Absolutely. He's the ultimate maven. And so during my school run, you know, I was admittedly just broke as hell, just trying to figure out what I was trying to do with this. I was taking all these classes, kind of stressing myself out, didn't have a really clear trajectory as to what I wanted to do. Yeah. I think there was a point in time I was considering going to California and trying to grunt that out and go on Netflix and work in the staff and kind of tear it up that way. Yeah. But I was like, you know what, let me reach out to Iron Daniels because he's been through this. He already had one movie underneath his belt. And he's just so experienced. So, you know, I hit him up and I was like, hey, like, how can you help me, basically? Right. And, you know, being as gracious as he was, he's like, hey, I just finished writing this movie called The System. I'm looking for an assistant director. I need some producers to help make this film. If you want to be a part of this project, I would love to have you. And I was like, thank you. I mean, I was already learning about all this stuff anyway. So, you know, to be able to practice all this stuff in a real world environment with a mentor like Iron kind of guiding me, it changed everything for me. And it inspired me to start making my own movies and making my own content after being able to kind of see it and feel it out in the real motion with that real world experience.
How long was the process in that film?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see, because I think officially we'll say that it probably took around 20 days to get done, like the actual shooting days. Oh, really? I will have to confirm that for me, but the the whole process, I mean, I know that he spent a long time writing that script.
Yeah.
And the original script of the system was actually much longer than what the movie turned out. There's like a whole part of that movie that didn't get shot because we just realized how long it was and how expensive it was going to be.
That happens.
It happens. But I know that the whole process, I'm trying to remember, I think we started shooting it that October of that year. And I think he had it in the can by November.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that because I'm getting old, losing my memory. But that sounds about right. That feels about right. Yeah.
Wow, man. But it had to have been a lot of fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a blast.
Soaking up all this experience.
Absolutely.
You know, so then you move on from that, then you start working on your film.
Yes. So
How'd that go?
essentially after I had graduated, or I was about to graduate, this is 2019, December 2019, essentially, was when I graduated. And at that point, I knew that I was going to create a thesis film. And I had the film written already, and I actually had pitched the film to a couple of my instructors and a couple of my peers, and they all loved the premise. The film, as of right now, is called Magenta. And I say that right now because we are changing the title. But so the whole plan was like, okay, I graduated the top of my class in the film school. SEC was actually extremely supportive of my like endeavors. They're like, hey man, if you want to use our special projects classes to use our equipment, use our facilities, use our cafeteria to feed your people, it's all yours. And so I was thinking, okay, cool, SEC is gonna help me make this film.
Yeah.
And then at that time, I was also thinking about going to California. And I was like, all right, so I'm gonna make this film and go to California. That's my whole plan.
That's the mindset.
That's my plan.
Right.
But as we all know, 2020 rolls around and the pandemic hit.
Right.
Hollywood immediately shuts down.
Yep.
And it's no longer an option for me to shoot Magenta because SEC also shut down because all the schools shut down.
Yeah.
And so we were literally 2 weeks out from beginning the production on Magenta when I got the word that they were shutting down the campus. And I'm like, oh, okay, I already had crew, I had everything figured out. We were having meetings, all the pre-production was done. And I was pretty devastated because, you know, like they were gonna help me, like, not necessarily financially, but help me cover my finances in terms of feeding people, having locations to shoot at, having equipment all for free. So I was like kind of freaking out. I'm like, you know, I guess I'm kind of screwed on that. But then, you know, kind of the blessing in disguise and like the silver lining of the pandemic was for me, the stimulus checks. I just stacked those checks up. And I was also on unemployment as well. Some people want to make fun of that, but I took that money and put that into a account and bought a bunch of film equipment. So I bought a Blackmagic 6K. I decked it out with much money, put like $5,000 into it, bought a bunch of brand new computer and all the necessary bells and whistles to make it run. And that whole summer, I just started shooting short films by myself.
Yes.
Just practicing with the gear, trying to learn how to use this equipment to make myself as good as possible. People started to see me because I was posting these films on social media. And a few people were like, hey, can I be in your short film? Sure, absolutely. We're not doing anything right now. It's a pandemic, right? So let's go make some short films. So we start creating short films. One of these short films ended up being the short film version of The Bond. It was actually like, there's actually a whole version of The Bond that exists on my hard drive that's vastly different than what we end up putting out.
Yeah.
That's like a 10-minute short film. And we made this short film. It had little fight scenes in there, a little action. And we watched this and we're like, this is actually kind of good. And so through much convincing of my team, they were like, we should make this a feature film, man. We should just do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, you know how hard it is to make a feature film? Like just off our gumption and passion? Sounds like a challenge, let's do it. So I wrote the script for The Bond in 10 days and we went to start shooting that. That's like September, late September is when we started shooting that film. Very long process. We were doing like the weekend warrior thing, basically every weekend going out and shooting to different locations, very guerrilla style, basically in the industrial area over here in downtown Phoenix. We were like going out to these locations by the train tracks and making this movie happen. And like I said, through the pure gumption and passion of myself and my crew, we got it done. There's a point in time we all caught COVID. Pretty scary because this is at the beginning of COVID.
A lot of unknown. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that we went through all that and still got the movie done, it's crazy. So.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Man.
Go see The Bond. We put too much effort in that for you guys not to see it. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with The Bond, I mean, we we weren't able to do like a full theatrical run, but we were able to premiere it at Harkins Theater, which is a major deal.
That's big.
Especially since that weekend that we premiered it was the same weekend that Spider-Man No Way Home came out.
Yes.
So
yes.
being able to, which Spider-Man's my favorite fictional character in history, so being able to walk into the Harkins Theater and see the Bond poster in one theater and then Spider-Man No Way Home right next to it,
Yeah.
it made my heart full.
And of course, my scary ass, because of COVID, I wanted to go, but I was like, no, I just got to separate. I got to separate.
No, it's understandable. A lot of people pulled up though, yeah.
I supported definitely, and watch, yeah, man.
Yeah, we almost sold out the venue on that. Yeah, that was awesome, man. That's like actually one of my greatest memories in my life was being able to debut my movie in a Harkins Theater. And we have our next one coming up, Magenta. Hopefully we get it done here this summer and that'll be out hopefully next year, so. So originally, when it came down to Starstruck Multimedia, I just wanted to mostly have a connection to my city because basically what had happened in 2011, I conceived my child with his mom who lives up here in Phoenix. And that same week that I actually found out about my child coming into the world, I actually signed a record deal with Expat Records. Very small record label, they're not around anymore, but it was a pretty decent deal. And I had some decisions to make at that point. Would I either pursue this record deal, they wanted me to go on tour, do this and that, or go be a father and move to Phoenix and be up here and just kind of figure it out from here. I chose to be a father. That was just the right decision for me to make. And so from there, I knew that I would be leaving Tucson, which was like my hub and like where my people were at. And I was gonna be in a brand new city. I had some people up here, obviously, but like I didn't have like my source. And so the original version of Starstruck was mostly Tucson artists that I just fucked with heavy.
Yeah.
Cash Lansky, Marley B, Johnny Red, the Aces, which is Jaka Zulu and 808, a videographer named Levon Kadanaman, and my nephew Jordan Pogue. And Stack Styles, all from Tucson, Arizona. At that time, we had a meeting at Club Congress and I was like, hey man, like I have a lot of resources and I have a lot of connections and I just want to give these resources to you guys. I want to be able to, pool our resources together and throw bigger, better shows, be able to support people in terms of the releases better and create this network that really comes down to the fact that I really believe in you guys as artists. Yeah. Like, as I said earlier, like these artists, some of these artists that I mentioned are some of the best artists in Arizona, period. And so I just wanted to support them and see them win. So we created Starstruck, which was kind of like a cool kids club at first. That's kind of basically how I described it. Yeah. For the first several years, which started in 2011, every year I would bring in new members of Starstruck based off of just like their merits and the efforts that they put out there. I'm saying just seeing them getting it popping out in Arizona. Yeah. And just kind of seeing that spark inside of them.
I remember seeing it, man. Like you would just shout out, like so Starstruck. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, they got some coming.
Yeah, and for the most part, the track record's pretty good. I mean, it is what it is with some people, and that's like kind of how it works out with life in general. But for the most part, if you look at some of the artists who have come through Starstruck, they're some of the best artists in Arizona history, period. And that's just facts. And I'm not saying I had much to do with that, other than just being the biggest cheerleader possible. And being like, go fuck with these people, go mess with them. I have pretty strong connections up here because when I came up here in Phoenix, I actually started writing for Phoenix New Times. And I was a writer for them as a freelancer. And so that really helped boost my signal up here because everybody was trying to get down with the guy writing for Phoenix New Times. Right. And so, but what I would try to really do is focus on the people who deserve that shine, obviously. But then also, throw some shout outs to my homies in Tucson. So. You would see shout outs to Marley B and Cash Lansky in some of these articles that I was writing because I believe that they needed that boost, that signal boost. Yeah. And so that's kind of what Starstruck was at first. It was just like kind of like, hey, you're dope, come rock with me, and hopefully when it's all said and done, people will think that you're doper. However, 2016, finances started to come in play. I went through a really bad breakup with the mother of my child. It was a whole thing. Ended up basically being damn near homeless. Actually was homeless at one point. And essentially just had to start over. And I remember having my little 1-bedroom apartment, still making music, still making beats, I was out there in the streets doing a lot of weeklies and monthlies. I think I had a weekly over at Spinelli's over in Tempe.
Yes.
I actually was a co-owner on Painted Tiger Studios and their satellite studio around the corner, and I was still doing shows in Tucson. So I was active, just going around doing this and that, but I still didn't have a direction or like an understanding of what that core of me, that storyteller in me was doing. I was just trying to grab shit that I can grab and make it work.
But isn't it something how all these experience, these moments and experiences are what were helping you create a story?
Absolutely. But part of it too was like, I was afraid of, I wouldn't get off the fence, basically. I was still trying to do the 9-to-5 thing and try to go get a job and do this and that. That year prior to me starting Starstruck, I happened to meet my wonderful wife, Hannah Rose, and she was a very crucial person in a very crucial moment in my life. So that year, got hired and fired from 4 separate jobs. The last job that fired me, I was working at Waymo. So the Waymo cars that you see driving around all the time. I was actually one of the test drivers for that. Very well-paying job. This job was paying like $25 an hour at the time, which was a shit ton of money. All I had to do was go in there and sit in a car for 8 hours and put down data.
Easy money.
Very easy money. So when they called me that morning on my way to work and they say, hey, don't come in, you're fired. No, we're not gonna tell you why. I hung up the phone and I actually broke down in tears because I was just like, you know what, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. Like, I just lost this job again. I have to go back out there and look for another job. What the fuck? I was just really frustrated. And my wife was just like, well, she's my girlfriend at the time. She came to me and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I see you out here making this incredible music and working with all these people. You have like great talent with your camera work and your photo work. How come you don't have your own company doing all that for a living? You're over here trying to get a 9-to-5 job that you're not happy about. Pursue what you love. Like actually give 100% and give a shit and you might get some results. And I'm like, you know what, babe, you're right. So that day I ended up getting my LLC for Starstruck Multimedia. And I didn't have much. I had my Canon T6i, but I took everybody's photo in this whole entire scene with that camera, including yours too. I have everybody's photo on that camera, and they're all on Facebook too. But that was part of it. It was just going out there and really finding that story and finding out what the hell was I trying to do with this. I know I want to help people tell their story, and I know I have the assets and the tools and the mindset and the resources to just get it done. And so that's kind of what Starstruck Multimedia really became, was being like a artist consultation / multimedia hub that people can come to get shit done. So like, if you had an idea, I can take that idea and we can make the beat, we can record the song, we can make the video for it, we can do a marketing campaign for it, we can figure out all your social media for it, we can write a press release for it and send it to New Times if you want to. We can do all this stuff that I can capable of doing because I learned all this. And it's just one guy doing that, right? So that's basically what Starstruck Multimedia was. And I ended up turning that on the side. We had a record label too. So we had artists like Lizzie Page, Vidi Mendez, Cousin It, rest in peace. All these people came through Starstruck. You know, they came to me looking for advice, hoping that I could help them out and get them to the next level. And I just did the best I can with what I had. So that's basically how Starstruck got started. At this point, we are now basically doing films. We obviously have Star Camp Creative Labs now, which is like a full studio that does events, et cetera, so forth. But Starstruck has evolved into more than just me helping you tell your story. It's now almost like a mantra of being the best version of yourself. Oh man, what is next? That's actually a really good question, man, because right now I'm doing a lot. So as I said earlier, I just opened up my own studio, Star Camp Creative Labs, where we do events, video production, podcast production. We also have a conference room for meetings. We also do social media campaigns and creative consultation. So basically what I do is Starstruck, but amplified to a new level. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, but running a studio is a lot of work. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. But with that said, I'm also trying to finish up my second feature film, Magenta, tentatively titled. That should be done hopefully this summer and completed by the fall. And we're hopefully gonna try and submit that to festivals and then release it to y'all for y'all to watch. I'm also working on new music. So I've been working on a Starstruck album featuring all my Starstruck friends I've been talking about in this interview. It's called Zenith. We put out a single actually this past January called Above that features myself, Cash Lansky, and Kaizo Trohelm. That's like the lead single for the project. Because I'm so busy, I've kind of put it on the back burner a little bit to where it's not like my top priority, but you can expect to see that hopefully by the year's end. I shouldn't even say that, but hopefully by year's end we get the Zenith project. And then also I'm also embracing this whole AI wave, man. So like as a storyteller, this whole AI generation thing has been a blessing for me because it not only has given me more time for my family and my friends and my art, but it also allows me to just do some really cool creative shit. And so one of the things I've been working on is actually an AI generated comic book that's a companion to the Zenith album that we're putting out this December, maybe. So that's part of the reason why the album is delayed, because we're trying to dual release these at the same time. And making a comic book via AI is actually a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be easy as hell, like just type in ninja punching man. Nah, it's a whole thing. So that's taking me a while. I'm also working on artist development still. So I'm still working with artists that are looking to get their shine on and try to get themselves to the next level. I'm not Puff Daddy or Jay-Z or Master P or Baby, but I do have connections. And the thing about that is that if you believe in my process and what you're trying to do, and you actually follow through with it, I can almost guarantee that you will at least be well known in the Arizona community if you work with me in those regards. I have the proofs in the pudding, just look up my track record on that.
Absolutely.
But I'm working with an artist, Voodoo Eyes, who's also like my protege. He's been my assistant for Starstruck for the last year and a half. This kid's super, just crazy talented. He can sing, he can rap, but he's also helping me with Star Camp, so he's learning like the business side of things. And he's really young. And so the whole idea is that I'm really trying to create more me's, I guess that's the most conceited way to say it, but more multimedia artists out here that want to work and kind of be these multifaceted artists, because as time goes on and technology gets more advanced and we're out here trying to figure this all out, it's becoming more necessity to be multifaceted.
Yeah.
And I'm understanding that like as time goes on, like how blessed I am to be able to have all these skill sets in different lanes, because not a lot of people can do that, but you can train people to do that. So Joey's kind of an example, Voodoo Eyes is an example of that, to where if you look at his progress over the last year and a half, he will be one of the best multimedia artists out of the state and maybe in the nation. That's a big claim, but we know that's what we push for. We like to dream big. So lots on my plate. The last 3 years have been extremely interesting for me. Just falling into a sense of financial security with like Starstruck and Multimedia, but then also just a lot of loss. I'm saying losing Cousin It recently, family members, et cetera, so forth. And as I get older, you start to think about like your place in this world. And you start to like think about death and like your legacy and all that stuff. And the reason why I say all this is because I just had my birthday yesterday. I just turned 39 years old. And this past weekend, I had an event at Star Camp called Campfire, which is like our staple event. And I invited all my day one friends from Tucson. Like these are the people that have known me since 6th, 7th grade in high school, or 6th, 7th grade all the way up to now, 25 year long relationships. And I called them up and said, I just need you guys here. I miss you all, please come. 15 people pulled up from Tucson in a caravan to come share this energy with me. And like, I was damn near in tears just because of the fact that, just to answer your question, like I felt special. I felt like, that all this effort and time and passion that I put into the community, that I put into my friends, that I put into the art, it pays off in ways that you don't necessarily expect it to. And I think one of the biggest things that kind of concerns me about being an artist with a lot of artists out there is that they want to chase the money. They're like, oh, I want to get rich. I got to go be a rapper so I can go get rich. I got to get the bag, get the bag. And I'm telling you, if you just pursue what your heart is telling you to pursue and do the things that make your heart sing, it will work out for you. I'm telling you. This is coming from somebody who has been at the very, 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 very fucking bottom and is getting a little bit higher as time goes on, in the sense that if I tried to pursue this cash and try to pursue this dollar, I probably would be failed and maybe even dead at this point, because I've done some shit. Maybe that's a different episode. But rolling with a sense of integrity and purity and morality will get you further than anything else. And that's what makes me special. And that's why I feel so special when I can see the results of even you even asked me to be on this interview. And I'm saying it's because you see something special in me, and I wholly appreciate that. That's what it's all about for me. And like, some will call it ego, some will call it whatever, but for me, it's just a vibe, it's a frequency. To be able to connect with people on a level that maybe only those two people understand, or only a few people understand, that's what it means to be special. And I just try so hard to like achieve that. It's more important to me than anything else. So, love you all. I love you all, man. Hey, y'all, thank you very much for watching my 5. Peace out.
And there you have it. Man, shout out to my brother Jaron, man. Jaron, I met Jaron. Now, when I met him, he went as Black One. And it was through Arizona Beats. This was probably back in like 2007. And, you know, just, I mean, he was straight out of Tucson, was still living in Tucson, and then he made his transition over to Phoenix. And the scene has definitely, you know, embraced him extremely well. Like I said in the interview, man, I mean, it's like we gotta put egos to the side, man. It's like, it's Arizona. You know, at the end of the day, it's Arizona, man. And, you know, whether you're Flagstaff, Yuma, Tucson, whatever, man, like, it's Arizona. And if you're contributing to the scene and, you know, making your mark, then that's all that matters. You know, as long as it's in a positive way and it's something that can build up the community here and get people, you know, on board with everything we got going on, I'm all for it. So, man, he's just been solid since day one, and I'm really, really proud to see just the growth, man. You know what I mean? It's like we both, you know, really come from the trenches out here in you know, in the scene. And so to see where he's at now and just everything he's accomplishing and still going is beautiful, man. It's really beautiful to witness. And man, salute to you, my brother. You know, I wish you nothing but the best and nothing less. And let's just keep this popping. You know what I'm saying? You got my full support. And thank you so much for blessing us on this platform. All right. Now make sure you guys are following him on social media. And then shout out to my brother Jimmy Nelson on the camera. Go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. Well, this was definitely one for the books. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, though. Until next time, stay tuned, stay blessed, stay healthy, and just give me 5, y'all.
Everything you get, you got the